Hello, my name is Myriah Day and I use she, her pronouns. Today I'm going to be sharing a presentation with you about how we as future school counselors can support transgender and gender nonconforming students. Before we get started, I want to share a couple definitions with you. So to start out with, transgender is an adjective that describes a person whose gender identity is different from the gender that they were thought to be when they were born. So also considered to be the gender assigned at birth. So if a baby is born with female genitalia, that baby's gender is assigned to be female. So as that baby grows up, that baby could be 4 years old, 8 years old, 12, 18, 42 years old, and then understand that maybe their gender that they were born, that they were assigned with at birth was wrong. So they can then transition to be transgender male, and then they identify as a man using he, him pronouns. So some transgender people have a gender that's neither male nor female. So maybe that baby then doesn't transition to be male, but that baby then transitions to be non-binary to describe their gender. Often people that identify as non-binary they use the they them pronouns. So that is not for all non-binary people, but several. Gender nonconforming has nothing to do with gender identity, but it has something to do with gender expression. This is how we express our gender. So you might have heard of someone being a feminine boy or a masculine girl, or being perceived as androgynous somehow. So know that not most gender nonconforming people do not necessarily identify as transgender. So gender nonconforming is really about, like, for example, thinking about how maybe a girl that identifies as a girl plays football, that would be gender nonconforming. Or a boy that maybe wants to perform in ballet, or that would be gender nonconforming. So why I chose this topic is I have been the advisor for at 3 different schools over the last 10 years for the Queer Straight Alliance and Genders and Sexuality Alliance. And I hear time and time again from students that not enough teachers and support staff ask about pronouns or are really educated on supporting them as transgender students. Or even gender nonconforming students. So transgender and gender nonconforming students are significantly more likely to be bullied and harassed about their identity. So a little bit of information and some data to support why we as school counselors need to focus on understanding more about supporting transgender youth and transgender students. Right now I'm going to just focus on transgender, and know that I'll come back to gender nonconforming in a little bit. But of this research that I found, 87% of transgender students had been verbally harassed because of their gender expression. This is in school. So, and 53% had been physically harassed in school. That is alarming. This needs to be addressed nationwide, statewide, school-wide, all of those things. So this kind of data is really alarming and really upsetting. Know that even of these students, so the students that were verbally harassed and or physically harassed, only 54% of them reported it to a school counselor or to an administrator or any of them. So we can go on and on about maybe why that is, but that the fact that it happened is can contribute to how we can do better as school counselors and school staff and teachers. And another thing that we can do is we can do better and addressing these situations effectively, because only 33% of the students that actually reported felt like they were supported afterwards. So as school counselors, what we can do, the very first thing that we can do to even begin, is we need to educate ourselves and investigate our own biases on like how about what we believe transgender to be, and digging deeper. I strongly recommend the Trevor Project, downloading this guide. It's great resources for educators. Another thing that we can do as school counselors is, this is a small thing, this is a really good start, is whenever we have our name on our door of our classroom or of our office or in our email signature, is to include our pronoun, the pronoun that we use in order that we identify with. That is a huge one. Students report time and time again when teachers do that shows that you're supportive. That you can also help communicate name changes and gender changes with teachers, of course, with the permission from the student. Another thing is being able to give equitable educational and extracurricular opportunities for all students, regardless of how they identify their sexual orientation, which is different from gender identity, regardless of their gender identity or how they express their gender. So being able to support the transgender girl that wants to play volleyball, or being able to support that girl that plays football, or being able to have two girls being able to dance together in a dance class as a couple, or two boys. So that's really important to have that advocacy. Another thing is being able to have access to buildings facilities, like an all gender or a gender neutral bathroom for gender non-conforming and for transgender students, just a safe space for them to be able to be in order to do what they need to do to be themselves. Lastly is whenever we hear from that being able to support students to address discrimination from staff members. I've heard over and over again from students about how staff members haven't been on board to support their identity. So that's been really essential of the work that I've done with students. So that, as a school counselor, that's one thing that we can empower them, but also work with staff members to better support students. So as you've been watching this video already for just over 6 minutes, how can you benefit from the information that I've shared? Understanding that transgender and gender nonconforming students really do need extra support and advocacy at school for them to be successful. That you can have an awareness on how to be a better school counselor, and that you can really think about how we can advocate on the school level, school district, and the state level. Here on the left is the states that currently have anti-discrimination laws in place for students, specifically geared for students about sexual orientation and gender identity is the brown, and then the orange is for just about sexual orientation. So we got a lot of work to do. So mostly because the American School Counselors Association, the standard that really is honing in is this one: being able to understand that students have the right to be treated in the manner that is consistent with their gender identity, and to be free from any form of discipline, harassment, or discrimination based on their gender identity. This is super awesome. I'm really glad that this exists, and we have an opportunity to continue to support this ethical and legal standard. I have a little clip for you about all gender bathroom. So I'm gonna do a quick screen share. Here we go. Here for you.
An all-gender bathroom is basically like a big sign to all LGBT students that differences are accepted. All-gender bathrooms don't exist just to accommodate trans people either. That's a misbelief. All-gender bathrooms are encouraging everybody is treated the same and not grouped according to how you may look or how you may express yourself. So if I see an all-gender bathroom, I immediately know that I'm accepted and that I'm in a safe place. And again, if you're at school, you need that safe place to be able to learn and to grow and to develop socially.
All right, this is a great video, and I encourage you to look at all the resources for GLSEN. And then here's a little bit of information on how you can support non-binary students.
Educators can be allies to trans youth in little ways, such as putting a space for your pronouns like on your syllabus for the first day of school.
An inclusive school will first off have the gender neutral bathrooms, probably a steady GSA, a lot of teachers that are well educated on LGBT, hopefully a few out teachers, which would be very great. I'm very fortunate to have a few out teachers, even an out principal. More comprehensive education, especially sex ed.
All right, so as we continue to finish up this presentation, I really appreciate the time that you have shared with me in order to watch my video about supporting transgender and gender nonconforming students. Here's a couple references that I've used for this research. And again, thank you for engaging. And if you have further questions or need resources to support transgender and gender nonconforming students, please reach out, and I can support you the best I can. I appreciate your time, and we will be in touch.